So what we've been talking about is, last time we spoke about joining the spiritual Olympics. We've been talking about what to do when there's darkness and the gift of lighting candles in darkness. And of course, I can say, and it's true, we're on the brink, if not a war with Lebanon and Hezbollah, and the whole world has turned against us more and more with the most ridiculous assertions. We're living in a extremely, and I don't often use the word, but legitimately challenging time as Jews. So we will see that what we happen to be on the chapter makes a lot of sense. But the truth is, the sad thing is, it's not unusual for Jews to go through these kinds of times. So what we're learning now, are applicable for all ages and all times. So she says, anyone who reads Holocaust literature books on others who have dealt with terrible traumas in their lives will come up with a few basic principles, which Miriam Adahan calls candles, that can help bring light into the darkness at that moment. So this is why I always encourage or talk about stories of people who've been through difficult things and come out stronger or learn from it, because they know they've been through it and they can literally say this is what helped them. A good blueprint of how to fight the war against despair is seen in the biography of Rabbi Yitzchak Shmuel Eliyahu Finkler. It's written by Rabbi Yechiel Granatstein, called One Jew's Power, One Jew's Glory. Rabbi Granatstein quotes Ephraim Rottenberg, who was in the slave labor camp, I can't pronounce it, Skarowiecko in Poland. And this is a quote: I watched him during roll call once when we were ordered to assemble and stand at attention so that a selection could be made. All just stood there in abysmal despair, waiting for the Germans to make their random choice of whom to let live and whom not. I was standing near the Rebbe. I watched his lips moving, murmuring with a smile on his face. His pleasant mood never left him. There he stood, whispering how to this man, now to that one, rousing, heartening, consoling, pouring into them his faith and trust in Hashem. So this is the thing, and again, it's never about judging anyone else, but it's always how we approach something. We cannot control events, unfortunately. Hashem sends them to us, but even in his moment, he was consoling others. And that's a big push that I've been mentioning here a lot, and really strengthened by what Manis Friedman has been saying since October the 7th. We are needed. And the more we focus on what we can do for others, the more purposeful our life is. That's what we're here for. We are here to fulfill a purpose and to be needed. So when we shift the focus from what I need to who needs me, it helps you mentally. So they're not saying this is my add-on to this quote, that not only was he able to stay with the same smile, he was accepting his fate, I presume, but more he was focused on everybody else. They say that about Shlomo Karlebach as well. They say when he had a heart attack once, he insisted on having his guitar in the hospital, and although they told him to have bed rest, he walked around from bed to bed and he sang for people. While he was in hospital, he was busy looking after everybody else. So the more you needed and the focus is off you, not that you shouldn't look after yourself, you will feel fulfilled no matter what you're going through. Now, Natan Sharansky, he wrote a book called Fear No Evil, and he describes his 12 torturous years in various prisons in Russia. He was deprived of contact with his family members, except for a few brief moments every 2 or 3 years. He was kept in freezing isolation in a cell for longer than any other prisoner in the brutal Russian system. For 3 years, he did not even grab a glimpse of the sun. He went into the prison weighing 145 pounds, and at his lowest point weighed only 72 pounds. He went almost blind from lack of nourishing food and suffered permanent heart damage as a result of the brutal treatment. I know. Sharansky saw many people give in and go under, people who committed suicide, who collaborated with the enemy, or went crazy. The day after he was released, he was asked how he kept his sanity. So this is what she talks about, the candle. What kept him sane under these unbelievable torturous conditions? And he said, a person must know what thoughts to put into his mind. Now, he's still alive and he lives in Israel. He was part of the Knesset. I don't know if he still is. You can listen to him on YouTube if you look him up. So we're not talking about, often when you talk about great we don't use the term in Chabad, but people talk about Gedolim, and everyone will go, well, Alavai could be on that level, it's not like that. I always say this, they're real people. He's a real person that's still alive in Israel that you can listen to on YouTube. He said it. He went through it in our lifetime, well, in my lifetime, and he said a person must know what thoughts to put into his mind. Natan Sharansky. Yeah. In the final analysis, what makes us or breaks us in life is not the losses themselves, but our attitude towards them. If we practice Sharansky's tools, we will win against despair and develop real emunah and betochen. And that's why it's not ever about minimizing what we go through, but it's how to think about it. There's a lot of pain, but while you're feeling the pain, there is darkness. You light a candle. And learning, and this is by learning, as we've spoken about, emunah is practice, and practice is to be inspired by people who won't tell you it was easy, but they will tell you how they got through. Same as Edith Eger. She always looked forward and not back. She never said, why did it happen to me? She said, what next? And she appreciated her growth. She said, I would never be the kind of person I am today if I hadn't gone through what I went through. So it doesn't mean she didn't go through hell. Doesn't mean he didn't. But he got through it, and you train your mind. So what we put in our mind will make the difference when Hashem sends us difficult times. And right now, even if in our personal worlds, things are going quite well as Jews, our country is fighting an existential war on all fronts. It's not an easy time. And we can strengthen ourselves with these ideas. So remain emotionally honest. Candles which are lit in darkness are seen most clearly, but they don't eliminate the darkness. Likewise, the spiritual truths do not necessarily eliminate emotional pain. So this is, again, what I was just saying a minute ago. It's not about, I'm going to get rid of the pain. If you had a loss, you will feel that pain. The darkness is there, but you light a candle that shows you the way how to move in the darkness. That's what we're talking about. So this is the Rebbe used to say that instead of trying to push away the darkness, light a candle. A candle brings a lot of light. So the darkness is there, but when you have a candle like I will discipline my thoughts, or I'll find a way of looking at other people, whatever you do that works for you, the spiritual truths don't take away the pain, but they give you direction. They give you light in the darkness. So we're not trying to get rid of the pain, and sometimes it takes a very long time, if ever, to get rid of the pain, but it's more about navigating the pain. An example, my husband has Alzheimer's disease. I felt guilty whenever I got impatient with him or bitter about the fact that my life has become so restricted. I can't leave him alone or invite people over, not knowing what he will do next. I kept telling myself that I shouldn't be angry at him. It's not his fault that he's so crabby or throws tantrums if he doesn't get what he wants immediately. It's the illness. I had to give up my job, my classes, and my social life. He is often incontinent. He often doesn't recognize me. I live with constant tension, not knowing what he'll do next. Finally, I saw a counselor. She helped me to see that I had a right to grieve for the loss of my best friend and my old way of life. Her guidance has helped me become more accepting and patient. So she's looking at the growth. And this is the thing, more and more people are living or have parents with Alzheimer's. These are common, as you know, I'll say it's an average situation. Many, many people live or have people in their life. So the idea is, how can I learn? How can I grow? When the focus is that, it's a light in the darkness. Doesn't mean it's not difficult, but it's a different way as opposed to going, this is a waste of time, Hashem is cruel, he's making a mistake, I shouldn't be going through that. All that kind of talk, we don't worry about that, because that is what the suffering is. It's more, this is what Hashem has given me, let me find a candle. As she says, I've become more patient. My growth has been I've learned to be patient, or I've learned to accept what Hashem has sent me. There are no words which will take away the pain, no intellectual knowledge sufficient to stop the heart from aching. All we can do is acknowledge the pain and ask God for the strength to find meaning in life despite it. So again, this was one of the myths I believe that was perpetrated by analytic work. When I was trained as an analyst, this was the idea. If you had enough therapy, you would resolve everything. So true analysts would have patients that only maybe have 5 patients, but they would see them 5 times a week. And it'll be an hour a day, 5 times a week. That's why only rich people can have analysts in London, mainly in London, but also New York. And they would also space them. I remember having supervision. They would like spend an hour after a session. So it wasn't that they only worked 5 hours. The analysts would write copious notes. What happened in the session, they would remember. They didn't record it. If you did supervision with them, they would want you to write a whole hour what happened, what was said, what you replied. So there were hours of thought. So imagine 10 hours a week. 5 hours where you were talking to your analyst, or the analyst was listening to you, and 5 hours when the analyst was thinking about you. But the underlying theory in those early days was that if you just kept coming and you dug deep enough, the word was resolve issues. And the same was done with marriage counseling. When it was started, the idea was, Virginia Satir used to do a lot of writing. If you get 2 people in a room, it was new. Now it's like old hat, but then, and they can discuss their issues, you can resolve issues. And now, 20, 30 years later, Gottman's saying, there's some issues you'll never resolve. Even in the best couples, there are some issues that are never resolved. But how? And then he says, well, how do good couples manage these differences that are never resolved?
Every day, 1 hour a week, it's like a Freud method.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
It's incredibly self-indulgent.
Yeah. Yeah. We used to say that there were very few people who could do it. They had to be Yarvis, and I still remember that. Young, adult, rich, verbal, intelligent, and sensitive. So if people didn't have those things, they wouldn't have. It was a very elite kind of area that people to have their analysts, and it was very serious. And some would be 7 years of analysis. You knew that. By the time even I trained, and we didn't have really true analysts in Israel, in South Africa, because a lot of them refused to live in South Africa. So a lot of South Africans they had trained at Tavistock, moved to London, and they used to come and give us seminars and things, workshops. But even they were not working 5 days a week. So it was more, you could have twice a week. And if it was really serious, 3 times a week. When I trained, that was sort of the given. But the idea is that, I'm not saying it's not purposeful, I'm not criticizing the whole thing, but the idea of resolution, some things you might never resolve. But the idea is, how do you make space for it? How do you frame it? How do you light the darkness? How do you put a candle up? That's what you're saying is more realistic. The Torah obligates us to make our minds rule our heart. When we fail to do this, we sink into negativity. So this is a big thing that we need to, they say it's one of the symbols of standing up straight. Animals are horizontal. Their heart and their mind is on the same level. Humans stand up, which symbolically means our minds are above our heart. Our minds can dominate our heart if we just train it. When we don't let our mind dominate our heart, we sink into negativity. Reb Aryeh Hilsenrad has provided an excellent moshel on how to relate to our negative emotional state. He said that just as there's a gauge in your car indicating when you're low on gas, I don't think Teslas have this, but they might have low on electricity. I was just thinking how to be so different now. But anyway, we all know the analogy. So too, you can know that you're low spiritually when you are overcome with rage or despair. That's a symptom. When you're angry about things or despairing, your spirituality is low, and you need to fill up Torah philosophy and mitzvot. So it's a really interesting thing, because a lot of people in the secular world feel when you're running low, like, just go for a break, do nothing. But from a Jewish point of view, it's actually not helpful, because you're just going to go round and round in circles. You might have a rest, and it might be good for a few days. I'm not saying don't go away, but actually from a Jewish point of view, it's do more in this area. I'm not saying take on do an extra mitzvah, or just listen to a shir. If the news is making you upset and you're feeling depleted, don't do nothing. There are so many inspiring shirim. I was listening to Rabbi Friedman this week, and he made a comment, and he laughed. He's got this humor. He said, and it's true, there was a time that the internet was seen, a lot of people thought it's going to just bring all this trafe into the world, and it has. There's no question that the most searched sites are porn sites. They make millions, it's a whole big industry. It's all there on the internet. But there's also, as he said, there's never been so much access to Torah. He says it's the biggest yeshiva in the world. And I laughed when I heard that. It's true. You can go on and you can listen to anybody you want. Of course, you need to check out who they are, because sometimes they are, just to be aware, by the way, some of them are Jews for Jesus preachers. There's a lot of that comes up on my feed because I search rabbis. Just check that they are authentic rabbis. But you can choose. You want to hear the chief rabbi of South Africa, you can listen to his latest talk. Anywhere in the world, whoever you want to hear, any subject, it's the biggest yeshiva in the world. So just instead of watching the news and feeling down, lying on the bed doing nothing really isn't going to help you much. You can lie on the bed and do a relaxation, even that's more beneficial, but rather listen to a half an hour share and you will feel better. That's a light. So that's the thing. Fill up yourself with the emunah, with the right way of seeing the world. You don't need to trash yourself when this happens. You simply need to make sure that these states do not become fixed, permanent attitudes. So this, very important point. Don't feel bad if you do this. This isn't a criticism. So if you find that you're emotionally depleted, don't then make your life worse by going, I'm no good and I should be more spiritual and other people are better than me. It's not about that at all. Okay, right now I'm feeling depleted without any self-judgment. And then go, but don't let me have a choice. So in Emet would say, suddenly I realized I have a choice. I don't want to stay this way. Let me do something so it doesn't become a permanent attitude. So this isn't about criticism or feeling bad about yourself. It's about noticing and then having a choice. At some point, could be today, could be next week, I'm going to move on from this state. That's really the basis of Emet. Some point we go, I'm ready to move on to a better state, to a more elevated state. Rabbi Granatstein wrote, in the times when the worst things are happening, the most horrible tragedies for members of the family and others, Rabbi Yitzchak would counsel and urge us not to become, old-fashioned word, querulous towards the Creator, I presume it means upset, not to come to him with bitter arguments and complaints. He would try to help people, including members of the family, to accept the Almighty's judgment in devotion and submission. So it's a very hard thing to do, but he would say to people, because you add to your suffering when you're complaining about it. This is terrible and I shouldn't be going through it. When instead you say, I am going through it, I don't like it, but what can I do to help myself? That'll help you more than just arguing with Hashem. So that's what he would try to do, say to people, rather focus on building yourself up. To accept God's judgment may take a lifetime. And that's the other thing, it's not a simple thing. Hashem has given you a certain trial or tribulation, or the Jewish people a certain trial or tribulation. Doesn't mean we're going to accept it today or tomorrow, but the idea is to keep working on it. To keep working on it, to accept it. That's our mission, is to improve understanding that Hashem runs the world. And it's a very interesting thing to think about. If we're struggling with accepting it, what is it that makes us struggle? So again, I was listening to the same share with Rabbi Friedman, so the headline, I love the headlines they have to find. So this one, don't give up, just give up, something like that. So basically what he's saying is that why do you not accept it is that you want to be in control. When we don't accept Hashem's will, it's often because we want to be in control. We want it to be our way. And then the work is to go, well, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to learn that I can't always have it my way? And often you'll see it in other areas of your life as well. So is that what's actually motivating you? Or is it anxiety? Do you think that if I'm in control, then I can be safe? So to actually identify what it is that's stopping you from accepting what Hashem wants. So he said, but on the other hand, so he says there's those people who say, okay, I don't have to work, just going to give up and Hashem runs the world. Or the other extreme, people who work day and night because they believe if they don't work this amount, they're not going to have enough to feed their family. And as a Jew, there's a balance. We do have to work. There has to be a natural channel for Hashem to bless us. So we can't just lie on the bed and do nothing. We have to make a channel, but we have to only work an appropriate number of hours. Because you only need one channel. You don't have to work day and night. You'll still get the same amount. It's actually decreed on Rosh Hashanah, which is going to be next week. Hashem decides you'll read it. Who's going to live, who's going to die. If you're going to be rich, if you're going to be poor, if you're going to be exalted, if you're going to be humiliated. That part that most people listen to, Baruch Hashanah Yechasevu, we all listen to it and it's sung in a very serious and beautiful way. It's actually decreed. So you need to work a normal number of hours. And over and above that, it's not going to make a difference. And if you think you're clever, when I say this, many people write these stories. I've had it in my own life as well, where you do something extra and you think you've got a win, and then suddenly someone smashes into your car, or suddenly you've got a massive dental expense. And I had it once, I can't remember now one, but I think it was a $5,000 something I did. Of course, it was very unusual that I got that money. And like the next day I lost a tooth and I had to have an implant, and it was exactly like $5,000. And there's very little, getting back, right? So you have to pay it. And if you think in your life, because I wasn't meant to have that amount. So it doesn't mean you should. So you need to think, am I overworking in whichever area? It doesn't only have to be work that you get paid for. It could be the way you run your home. It's got to be, that level of control. So the idea is there's a balance between doing what we have to do and then trusting it comes from Hashem. So we have to, in all things, I've heard from people that will often say, I invested in my business in this way, but actually the money came from there. It's like you put in the effort, but sometimes it comes in a different way. But because it's not really coming from you. It's a very non-exact science, but if you open your mind to it, you'll see it. So this whole idea about letting go of control and really accepting that Hashem runs the world and that he knows what he's doing. And that's the hard part, to actually think that Hashem knows what he's doing and to be humble enough to know that we don't know the whole picture. So we are forced right now more than ever to really look at the world. Well, these are my thoughts. And I was hearing, recently with the phones and what were they using? Not walkie-talkies and what was the other thing they used? Pages, the pager. And how the UN was saying it's a crime against humanity and everything. And I was listening to Sherry Markson and she said it's almost laughable because it is so illogical that clever people, some of them have got a number of degrees, twist the truth in such a way that Rabbi Lapin would say that's even a miracle. It's so abnormal that people and a whole body of people can't actually see a basic truth, that it was self-defense, that it was targeted, that most of the people were actual terrorists holding their pager, which was sending them a message to go and kill Jews. Like, it's laughable. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. And if one can actually see that it's supernatural, it's not normal what's going on. And that can help you as well, because you go, there's something happening that's beyond our comprehension, because we want to sit down. Well, I want to sit down and go, A equals B. These are the facts on the ground. Like, they started the war. How many times you've heard people say, they started on the 8th. We don't want the war. We've been putting up with rockets. It's now 9,000 rockets, I heard, for 11 months. These are the facts on the ground, and they going, one act and we the terror. It just makes no sense. It's beyond normal reason. So that can also increase your faith, because Hashem runs the world in a way that's above reason. And actually, I wanted to share with you, and it's worth listening to. So Rabbi Harari gave a share a few weeks ago, I don't know if he called it how to be less anxious when things are getting worse. And he was addressing the fact that the war was going on, it's nearly a year, and things are not getting better, they're getting worse. So in the beginning, one can think it'll be over soon, or it'll only be the south of Gaza, whatever people thought, or the north of Gaza. Now it's like, when is it going to end? And more people are getting involved. So he gave a Hasidic concept, and I'll just say it in English, but it was an interesting thing where he spoke about, there's a Hasidic idea that there are things, I don't know if I get this right, below das and above. So there's Hasidic terms, but one is, there are things we understand that's in our intellectual ability, and there are things that are above us that are beyond us. And what we are going through now, he was saying, is above that. And there's a whole Hasidic, I can't really share it with you as well as he does, but to know that there's a limit. Just like when I always say, we live in this world, as Shlomo Melech says, we're under the sun, but we can choose to connect what's above the sun. So in Judaism, there are always the different levels, right? And the same thing, we have an intellect that's below das, but we have another intellect that's above Das. That means it's on a neshama level, that even though it makes no sense, we can spiritually know that Hashem is running the world because it's so bizarre. You can still believe it, even if you know what I mean, but it's illogical, that there is some good in here or there is a pattern. So you can use that as well to understand what's going on. So all of these things give you light when you go, this is so bizarre. And the other thing is to look for the miracles in it. So do you want to mention what you said to me this morning about the miracles? But so many of the rockets landing in the fields.
Oh, yes, there was an article by, I think it was Ford, whatever his name is, and he was saying, I want to say something, he said, and a lot of you won't understand why I'm saying it, because there have been people who have been killed, there are people being held hostage, all this, but he said there are miracles happening, and he said, and I'm not talking about the Iron Dome, he said that is a technical miracle which is amazing, etc. He's talking about the miracle of the missiles and the rockets that are falling on the land of Israel and landing in open fields and not touching anybody, not hurting anybody. He said, this tiny land, where are these open fields? I mean, if you're there, you know there are open fields, but he said it's just miraculous where they're falling and not having an impact on our people.
Yeah.
So that's what he's saying.
And the other thing I remember in Tebi, I'm sure many of you did actually. Who remembers in Tebi? Are there a few people? So I remember in South Africa, it was a Sunday, we heard about it because it happened on a Shabbos afternoon. All the way from Liverpool. Good morning, welcome.
Yeah, it's more like a nut.
Well done for getting here. So I was just talking about remembering in Tebi, and so the unbelievable, looking at all the Hashgacha Pratis of how Israel had been in Africa, and they knew the layout of Entebbe, and they knew they had somehow been involved in the airport. They knew exactly where everything was. And so because of that, they had the intel. And then the night they flew in, there was no moon, it was dark, all of those things, right? And it was an incredible miracle how it went off. Unfortunately, there was a loss, Bibi's brother. But on the whole, it was there was also, I think, an older woman who died. I think 3 people died, 2 or 3. I'm not minimizing, it's my tone, I don't want to sound it, but there were a few people that died. But on the whole, it was an incredibly miraculous. You could see that if you wanted to try and say, well, logically the moon 5 times a year is dark, but it's not. It's muzzle is everything comes together the right time and the time for it to happen. And so a few people have been saying that I've been listening to the same thing with the Motorola pager event, that everything, the way it came together was incredible. Like, if you think that no one even knows for sure how whoever it was, because I don't think the Israelis still have taken credit for it. So there's the joke that the helicopter accident, was it an act of God or was it the Mossad with helicopter? And now this one is Motorola. So maybe it was Moti or maybe it was somebody else. But so there were the 2 theories I heard. The one was that the Israelis intercepted a whole shipment from Taiwan and they opened up 3,000 and they put in and then they closed it up that no one saw. But the second theory, which I think has gained more ground, is that they got a license, whether the guy from Taiwan knew or not, to build these in Hungary, in Budapest. And the irony was that the Hezbollah were buying actually from the Israelis, but they didn't know they were Israelis, and they produced it that way. But how the Israelis knew that they were going to buy pages, the whole thing, that suddenly Hezbollah want 5,000 pages, and there's this company in Budapest that was set up that could sell them the pages. And nobody really knows the timing, but if you think about how it must have been organized, and was it done in a few months, or has all of that, and then the whole confluence of events, and then it was so successful. So what I think Ben Shapiro was saying is that it's on the level of Entebbe, the miracle of it, how it all came together and was so successful. And even if the rest of the world don't see it that way, we can see Hashem's hand in actually, it's an incredibly miraculous event that has actually taken place. Even the bombing of that guy in Anwar in Tehran, to be able to get into that hotel. It's all miracles that you have someone in there at the right place that can let you in, or that can do it and it goes smoothly. The fact that it even goes smoothly is, it was beyond nature that Israel can strike in Tehran when there are guards standing outside the door. These are things that have to give us heart, that remind us that Hashem is involved in every activity. It's not like Israel, the army, is doing it on his own. So, as Dai is saying, we need to look for the miracles to also fill us spiritually, not to just succumb to despair. There's something bigger going on, and Hashem is showing us, good things, miracles are happening. It's about, even that technology is sort of above, nature. And I was explaining it to someone. There was a guy once in the Baal Tshuva years, maybe in the 70s, who said to his rabbi, I can't really relate to this Torah. And for example, I'm studying the Parsha of Noach, and it makes no sense. I've worked out the dimensions. He might have been an engineer. There's no way all those animals fitted into an ark. It's rubbish. So the rabbi said, I can see, you're right. He said, if this must be so this would have been later, so in the 90s. He said to the guy, a guy in the 90s when the internet was starting. So he turned to the guy and he said, if I had told you in the 70s that the whole of the New York State Library would be on the tip of a pin, would you have believed me? I said, no, but now you know what a microchip is. The whole of the New York State Library, it's true, is on the tip of a pin. So we are limited below us in how we see the world, and we think they're books, just like there, and how they're going to, there's animals and how they're going to fit in. But from above us, in terms of what Hashem, what he reveals in science and technology, the whole New York, in fact, all the libraries in the world could probably fit on the tip of a pin and be faster than ever before. So it's a similar thing. When we think about old warfare, it's one way, and I know nothing about warfare. But when I saw that, I thought of that Noah example, and I thought it's the same thing. That this is a different way, that Hashem can help us find inventions that can fight the war. And that can also give us faith, that we're not limited. Hashem is unlimited. He can bring in technology and bring in stuff that I personally, but other people wouldn't know about. But scientists have these ideas. We say when Hashem wants an invention to come, it comes down. A new technology that can give us the strength to fight what's going on. And we can say it's a Yiddish kop, and of course it is. But Hashem has given us that kop, right? He's given us that ability. We can say we're top and we're the startup nation, but it's not a coincidence. We are the chosen nation, and we've always been very small, and we win our wars in different ways. And our intelligence, interesting it's called that, right? We call it intelligence. It's this as well. We mean spying, but it's also this, that we're able to do these unbelievable things. So we need to fill ourselves up spiritually. These are candles. There is, if I want to call it darkness, there is a war going on, and we are having losses. But if we can hold on to the good things, or see the brachas, or see Hashem's hand in it, and learn spiritually, oh my gosh, now I understand, or now I can see Hashem has the power to do it in any way that we never thought about. That gives you strength and energy. Don't get bogged down. It's so easy to just what we know and what we think, how the world should run. We don't understand anything about running the world. We don't. And we don't know the bigger picture. We certainly don't know quantum physics or whatever these things are called. But there is a whole world of that out there. And the way we tap into it is just through prayer and strengthening our belief. So I'm feeling actually very excited now when I think about what's going to come next. I think about a lot of inventions that I never got. I'm not very good at. So I remember years ago, maybe in 2000 or something, a friend of mine got a phone that had a camera on, and I had just bought an expensive camera, and I had my phone. And she said, no, and I in my head, or I might have even said to her, no, you need a camera with a proper lens. How can a phone be a camera? I never thought that a phone would be a camera. Who's got a camera today? You zoom in, you zoom out, you don't need those long, remember the long lenses now, I just do this with my fingers, and I can, edit it, it's incredible. In fact, everything's on our phone. We don't even use credit cards anymore. People are tapping, or they're tapping their watches. Who would have had that vision 15 years ago of how the world is working on a technology level? Then there was another one I remember that I thought, what? So people spoke about a fridge. Actually, I should have got a fridge like this now. That you stock it, and then as you use up things, right, it lets you know you're running out of tomato sauce. And then you never run out of anything because the AI, right, it's not a new concept, but I thought, who would want that? Well, I'm desperate now. I don't want to run out of tomato. But these kind of things, there are people who have the visual, but it's all above what we at the time know. There's an unlimited amount of things that we don't know and that are going to come out. And all these things are inspiring because the idea is that although the humans bring heaven down to earth and we are creating those things, because we are that's what it means, let us make man, we are partners in creation. All these inventions were there at creation. They've all been waiting in Shemayim to come down, and they come down at the right time, when the world is ready for them. And that's one of the theories, and I hope it's true, that before Mashiach, knowledge is going to be accessible. They say the Torah knowledge is going to be everywhere, right? It's going to be just like a sea around you. And again, 20 years ago or 30, how would you conceive that? But now we've got the biggest yeshiva in the world. It's on my phone, I don't have to go home. It's right here. I can listen to any share. Torah is everywhere. You can access it anywhere. Spotify, on your favorite podcast, wherever you like. Video, audio, written, it's everywhere. So all these concepts are there. The other exciting thing is to think about it is what do you learn? So when we say Hashem is everywhere, for me that was what the internet really taught, that Hashem is everywhere. And that GPS, that Hashem knows where you are at every moment. Hashem knows where you are. I deal with families. I have a woman now, she's not Jewish and she's like 50, and her siblings and her parents all live on the North Coast, and she lives in Sydney, and they've all got track finders. I don't know what it's called, Find Your Friend or whatever. These are grown people, and they all know where everybody is at every time. And she is having an affair. And her brother called the mother to say, what is my sister doing at this place at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? So we had a long chat about it, and this idea that they all know where each other is.
And she married as well.
And she's married. Yeah.
But how do they know?
There's a GPS tracker, so you all put your phone numbers on it, and you can see where everybody is. A lot of parents justify it. They know where their kids are every minute, and everyone wants to know that their kids are safe. But when your kid is 50 years old, and it's a whole session about whether. So she told her mother, and then her mother, who must be over 70, said, well, I get anxious if I don't know where you are. So then she said, well, I'll keep myself on the tracker. Like, this is a bit, anyway. It's a really interesting story that this family, and they're not Jewish, so we can't say it's a Jewish overprotective thing. I think it's quite a common thing.
As well?
I don't think it is. I don't think he's on it. I think it's her parents and her siblings. But the brother wants to know where she is. But the point I'm making is, when we used to say that Hashem can hear everything you say, and Hashem knows what you're doing, like he said to Adam in the day, where are you? He knew where he was. He just didn't want to embarrass him. He said, Adam, where are you? To start a comment. But Hashem knows where you are. The GPS teaches you that. No longer do we have a doubt. If a GPS and Google knows where you are every minute of the day, of course Hashem knows. He created that. So these things can really strengthen your faith that all those things you were told, the other one you told is whatever you say is going to be held against you, right? Don't think that anything you say, if you talk Lashon Hora or you whatever, when you come to judgment, it'll be played back to you. Well, that's, of course, it's all on the cloud, literally. It's interesting they call it the cloud. It's all sitting on the cloud, and when we're going to be judged, Hashem will switch on his on. I don't know if he uses Google or what he uses, but then he'll be able, everything you've ever said is going to be recorded. Because he's got data, right? Terabytes and Google Bytes and math. If you think about all these inventions, they help you understand how Hashem works. So this can be really exciting. So all the things that are happening in the wall, look for those candles. Look for those things that you can see. I can see Hashem's hand. He's in the war with us. We're not alone. So before we end and we do an example, I just wanted to talk about Rosh Hashanah. We have a week till Rosh Hashanah. It's a very important week to think about what you did last year. They actually say the last 12 days, each day relates to a month of the year before. If you can remember what you did each month, not everyone can remember. But it's more about realizing that they say it's like you don't want to arrive on Rosh Hashanah without your meal cooked. You know, you don't want to arrive and go, oops, I forgot it was Rosh Hashanah, now I've quickly got to cook at Simmers. You know, well, I don't know about you, but I'm already planning my meals and I've ordered things. You think ahead, just like you want your meals ready and ordered. You want to walk into shul or wherever you daven, prepared for Rosh Hashanah. You do much better when you're prepared. And it's not about a guilt trip. You want to prepare by acknowledging the biggest thing about Rosh Hashanah is that Hashem, exactly what we're talking about, runs the world. He's the king. So use this week, say an extra Tehillim for Israel, but also for you to use this when Hashem is very close to us, to really grow, to really tap into our spirituality, to make Rosh Hashanah meaningful. And this year it is about Hashem. A year ago on Rosh Hashanah, it's actually frightening to think about it, you decreed there'd be a war on Simchas Torah. And in a way, that's what the fear and trepidation is. It's like, but we shouldn't be terrified, like, who knows what the year is going to be? And to pray for a good year for every one of us. There's a concept that when you pray for others, Hashem answers you first. If you want that motivation, that's great, but do it anyway. Pray for others before yourself. You know, we, thank God, are safe. And even if one isn't, just like this rabbi, think about other people. Make this Rosh Hashanah about everybody and feel love towards everyone. Do go to shul. Feel love for everybody. Learn to love your fellow. It's an opportunity. Sitting in shul, and while people are running around and making noise, is a wonderful opportunity to work on loving your fellow Jew. So, you know, we say in the second sublime truth, thank you for giving me the opportunity. And I'm talking to myself because I get very irritated, especially Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. I get so...
They don't even open a book.
That's right. That's right. And I'll tell you why. And there's a lot of thing about it. Because the first thing is, in fact, I think this is all in the Baal Shem Tov. So there's a Baal Shem Tov taught this to someone, and the Alter Rebbe writes about it in one of his letters at the end of the Tanya that we're coming to. He actually gives this example. If you are davening in shul and a heathen is talking, he's not talking about a Jew even, disturbing your davening, instead of getting angry with them, thank Hashem for going to all this trouble to create a heathen who at this moment is there to annoy you so that you can work on your midas. So you thank these people, and Hashem actually, and why he uses the word heathen is because Hashem contracts himself. So the lower you go, a heathen implies quite far from spiritually. Hashem has to do a lot of work. I'm doing inverted commas for the people who can't see me. It's not work for Hashem. You thank Hashem because if we think, and I'm talking to myself, spirituality is I want quiet, I want to get into my davening, it's my Rosh Hashanah, how dare they? That's actually not spiritual. It's all about me. To walk into shul and actually go, being spiritual for me, now really I'm talking to myself, is actually about being calm and patient that all these people are in shul for the same reason as me. And I, by being here, have to work on myself to improve my midot. That's what being spiritual is. And this is a big thing that Chabad teaches, or the Baal Shem Tov spoke. There's one story where he went and a rabbi was learning and wouldn't take time off to speak to him. And he said, no. Even Avraham, when he was talking to Hashem, he said, hold on a minute, there are people at my door. Being kind to others is, from a Jewish point of view, more spiritual than getting into your davening. I'm not sure. I know what you're saying. But the more we can love our fellow Jews and understand that we are all one and we need to be united, and that they are giving us an opportunity to love their neshamas, to find a way. So the kind of thing I'm going to say to myself, I'm practicing in advance, is, they're also in shul. and we're all in it together. And if I can find some virtue in them and thank them for giving me the opportunity, that is going to bring down blessing into the world. If I'm irritated and make it about me, it's the opposite. So use this Rosh Hashanah in all the things we've learned already. And as I say, davening in shul and having quiet is a great one. But the other things as well, the sisters and sister-in-laws, the meals over Rosh Hashanah, all the things that bug us, Hashem has created that moment for you to actually be what really spiritual is, which is to improve your midot and not to be in control. It might not go the way you want. All we can be in control of is how we respond to what Hashem sends us this Rosh Hashanah. But what I do hope and pray He sends all of us is Mashiach, because with Mashiach will come. But anyway, in case He doesn't come, we want peace. We want harmony, we want safety, we want health, we need enough money that everyone should have their physical needs met in abundance. We should have peace in our homes. We should have health for everybody. And we should have the kind of success that is good for us. We should be successful, and we should all wish each other a Shana Tova. And in fact, that's what I'm going to do instead of an example. What Dina Garari always does is we'll go around the room and everybody will wish each other. So Shana Tova U'Mesuka and Kasiva V'Chasima Toiva.